following program on Derana 24 is classified for general audience. It is intended for all ages. It contains little or no violence, no strong language, and little or no sexual dialogue or situations. We would like to remind our viewers that the views expressed in this program by our participating guests are solely viewpoints of them who take part, and does not reflect the views and beliefs of the Derana Media Network.
Welcome down to Gen XYZ right here on Derana 24. Well, today we bring to you a different flavor. We're talking about, concerns amongst the youth as well, especially with the spike of immigration amongst students and amongst the youth of Sri Lanka. We see passport offices presently in Sri Lanka lined up with so many students, so many immigrants wanting to leave the country very soon. But that has caused a massive problem in the Sri Lankan market, especially the job market, especially losing our talent to other states and other countries for greener grass. But what is the solution here? What is exactly happening right now? And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today, right here on Gen XYZ. Hello, it's really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Have a seat, let's have a conversation. So we're in conversation with Shehani Wijerathne, just to give you a little bit of an accolade of all the things you've achieved as well. We're talking about having an MBA. She's achieved and acclaimed an LLB as well, along with being an Attorney-At-Law. Not just that, she's a senior lecturer at the Sri Wijerathne University. So what better person to actually have on board today on Gen XYZ and have a conversation as to what this particular situation in Sri Lanka is. So with that, Shehani, I want to ask you, there's quite a stir in Sri Lanka with immigrations, right? It's quite a spike as well. So tell me exactly, what are the stats? If you look into the stats of it, what exactly are the stats of student immigrations?
Yes, so student migration has observed many years ago, but when it comes to 2022, student migration rate has been rapidly increased, and that would be increase in future. So actually, if you look at the reasons why they migrate, main reason is the political and social unrest accompanied with the economic crisis. So they don't want to stay in Sri Lanka because they don't feel Sri Lanka is a stable country for them to acquire the material aspects that they're willing to have. For example, if they want to have a better job, if they want to have a better vehicle, a good house, so those are the expectations of young crowd in Sri Lanka. But due to present situation, skyrocketing inflation, plunging currency, due to these facts, they feel it's not so good and it's not so going up for them to stay in the country. And mostly they migrate to UK, Australia, Canada, Japan, like developed countries. But mostly previously actually students migrated to the UK for colonial ties we do have, but that trend now has been little changed, and now the trend actually goes to Australia and Canada. So in 2022 approximately this student migration will increase more than 29,000, right? So if you look at current situation of the country, we actually, as you said, we actually losing the young talent. It is actually harm for our labor force, because labor force needed entrepreneurial and creative thinking, plus the young blood, because they come with sort of new thoughts and new ideas, so we miss that. So it is what we call brain drain. We lose our talent. So this is the situation in the country right now. So there are a lot of factors affecting for this student migration. Mainly as I told you before, the economic reasons are the main thing, and also the secondly, they don't have enough opportunities in Sri Lanka. If you look at the domestic education system, it is actually limited in terms of spaces for Sri Lankans. So if you look at those who sit for advanced level examination, there are like nearly for a year there are 450,000 students sitting for A levels, but only very few of them, the cream of the or those who passed with flying colors, so they will only get select to state universities, and in terms of numbers we have only 17 state universities. So due to this limited opportunities in the state education sector, so many left behind. So we have private universities also. Government has also taken some steps to increase establishment of private universities. Some think to settle in Sri Lanka and pursue their education, higher education with these private universities, and those who can afford, so they will make a decision, and they see that foreign education or international exposure, having international career in future, or studying in a global university like.
Shehani, I'm going to cut you off there a little bit, right? It's sort of become like a trend amongst the youth of Sri Lanka as well, right? Where, you know what, I don't want to exhaust myself in finding opportunities, in finding ways in Sri Lanka. Everyone's leaving the country. Why? Because the connotation of there is greener grass on the other side, like countries like Canada, countries like Australia, UK, you name it. Is it really true? Or is it really a trend of maybe this is what is the best solution to do, so that's why I'm going to leave the country?
So it's like this now. Mainly, sometimes this student migration now has been a like kind of a pressure for youths. So they see that those who have this is what we call the social capital. Some students they have personal contacts, like their families, they have families in abroad, they have friends in abroad. So this peer pressure is very much related to their decision making. So they don't have any friends in Sri Lanka. All the friends in the circle, they have moved to other countries. So, and parents also have put some pressure on these youth. So then they have seen like they're unwilling to stay in the country, and sometimes like rather they really want to stay in Sri Lanka. So it has been kind of a pressure and been a wave, a trend, like many are leaving the country. So some, they don't have true purpose for, like they have all the sources to stay happy and comfortable in Sri Lanka, but that students also decide to leave. Now if you look at in terms of age, those two between 18 to 25, so they have shown the rapid, like increasing interest to leave the country. And those who finished A levels also, this is the important fact, those who finished A levels, so they also have thoughts to migrate. Now initially they don't like to migrate. The purpose that they leave the country will be for higher studies, like they wanted to read for a degree, so that will be the purpose. But the final intention is to settle down, to start working somewhere there, and also to permanently resident in those countries. When we talk about migration, so there are two types of migrations. Like first type is those who leave the country with the intention of coming back. So that of course fine. So Sri Lanka again that capital back to the country. But there are also group of individuals, they migrate, they don't want to come back. So
I think that group is intensely increasing right now as well.
Yes.
And even people in the age of like 25, 26, they go for their masters or their PhDs out of the country in the intention of staying in the country. Like that's a route of, you know, flying out of the country. So that's also quite a bigger problem, isn't it?
Yes, you're on point. Next, I'm going to talk about this. Those who have completed the degree program. So not only state university students, private university students also showing interest to read for postgraduate degrees in abroad. So right after they completed their degrees, so they think to start with an international career. So that is one reason is the youth unemployment. So Sri Lanka, they see that we don't have enough job opportunities, but like if you are having a proper knowledge, so these migrants are known as knowledgeable migrants. So we are not just leaving people, we are losing knowledgeable people. So they are known as knowledgeable migrants. So then they actually they have plenty of opportunities in Sri Lanka, but due to this economic crisis, all these opportunities are unseen, and our education system has no creative strategies to attract and retain this youth talent. It doesn't, the fact that we don't have enough opportunities, we have opportunities. The thing is, our youth have not guided properly to get use of these opportunities. And if I add more to what you have correctly pointed out, in Sri Lanka, once they completed degrees, so their intention is to go for higher studies. So for example, if I see my Facebook account every day, I see there are a lot of my students migrate in other countries. The students are going for abroad, right? So it was rapidly increased after 2022. There were only few students that wanted to migrate before that, but now the trend is very high. So they go for higher studies. Initially, now for Sri Lankan students, the important requirement is this financial aid. So affordability is a critical and crucial factor for Sri Lankan students. They are looking for employment opportunities, and also they are looking for scholarships and financial aid. So foreign universities also now looking or they change their study programs to provide, to facilitate these financial aids and scholarships for Sri Lankan students. Now, the interesting fact is, if you look at UK, so Sri Lanka is one of their top 3 evolving market for expansion of higher education. That means Sri Lanka ranks 3rd. From the higher education market in the UK. So if you look at this age group, those who completed the degree programs, we call them graduates. So these graduates, like many, have the intention to have international career and international exposure. So with the financial aid, so they try to go for higher education, and final intention is to settle down. So that is the very pathetic situation. Not only those who graduated after 2022, even the people who graduated between 2010 to 2015, so they also now decided to quit their jobs and go for higher studies in abroad. So main thing is, we need to have a way to retain this talent, or else to somehow, when we have like a stable economy in the country, so those who left the country may also come back. So it's a pathetic situation. And now when you look at how
Shehani, you mentioned as to how pathetic this particular situation is, right? And how we have to retain our talent in Sri Lanka. But see, the question is, we've got over 20 plus million individuals in a population in Sri Lanka. And we've got so many people living here as well. And just losing this number of people that are actually knowledgeable or have a talent in what they can do. We have so many other people that's there as well presently, but they can't find jobs. They can't even replace these individuals and so forth to their actually being economically challenged. They can't afford their daily meals. They can't even afford transport, to resorts of actually you having to sort of rob, steal, look at other means of ways of surviving. We'll talk a little bit more on the other side as well, because it's a very important aspect of things, right? Even if you do lose people, we have a certain number of people, being a small country, that can replace these people, right? So we'll talk a little bit on the other side. This is Gen XYZ. And in case you're wondering where exactly we are having this conversation, it's Al Fresco Garden Cafe, located at Colombo 5. You've got to come by. It's a beautiful aesthetic as well, and gives a little bit of a down south vibe, which I love so much. And with that, we'll be right back with Shehani Wijerathne, of course, right here, only on Gen XYZ. Welcome back to Gen XYZ. Well, we're in conversation with Shehani Wijerathne, who is an MBA holder and an LLB holder, Attorney-At-Law, and presently she's a senior lecturer at the Sri Wijerathne University, which is an absolute amazing accolade coming from you. Shehani, we spoke on the other side with regards to a very particular connotation that we mentioned as well in terms of losing our talent. But I have a little bit of a question that sort of punches all of that out, right? If you look into the dynamics of, or rather the algorithm of Sri Lanka, we have it in a way, especially in the labor force, right? We have it in a way where the fortunate, comfortable kids, the youth members who have contacts, who have parental comfort that actually gets you on the drive of, okay, this is your career, this is what you need to choose, I will get you there because I have the contacts and whatnot, right? These are the individuals who are leaving the country, who are migrating out of the country. They're leaving us, Sri Lanka. But then we have a whole bunch of individuals, students, who've come from different places, like Anuradhapura, Bandaragama, so many places, right? Far distant places in Sri Lanka. But they've earned their way to come here. They've earned their way through university. They've earned their way through scholarships. But because they don't have the contacts, they don't have the comfortability to get those jobs and replace these international kids or people that are comfortable to do the jobs. But if you think about it, they can do a better job than them, because they've done the work. But the problem is they don't have the means, they don't have the contacts. So they have to resort to jobs that are actually, even what they've studied, they have to resort to a lower job. Example, they have to do telemarketing and climb their way up the ladder. Isn't that a little bit of a problem, Shehani?
Yes.
Do you not see that?
Yes, exactly. So I agree with you. Now, so that is what I would say. We need solutions in two ways. Like those who migrate, you call them international students. So they have the updated knowledge. They have known to updated technology. They have the global experience what Sri Lankan is lacking. So why I say we need to get them back, may not be for long term, but to share their experience at least, to get their inputs, to develop our systems, to get that knowledge, to improve our productivity. So we need that support. That's our products of education. So Sri Lanka invested in them, in their secondary education, their university education. In all these aspects, Sri Lanka has invested in them. So what they gain in terms of work experience or in terms of academic exposure. So that guidance or that support need to be given for Sri Lanka back. So that is one thing, because all are 50-50 give and take businesses. Now, when it comes to local students, as you correctly pointed out, we have a 21 plus population in Sri Lanka, and there are people who are willing to come to these positions, and they don't have enough access or enough information about what we call these white collar jobs. That what we call the knowledge gap. So Sri Lanka, as particularly we have to educate. So our education system need drastic changes. So we need to provide them with the information and also access to these what we call very comfortable and very luxurious, not actually luxurious, we'll say prestigious positions, because they don't know. Sometimes they have the talent, they have the results, they have the good classes, but they don't see any opportunities. Therefore, they go back to their village and serve. That also good. We need people to serve our rural areas, but we can somehow replace this migrated talent to some extent if we provide information to these well-talented, hard-working students in our those who are in the country. And also that is what I'm saying, we have to expand the opportunities available in Sri Lanka. Now the current trend is now many foreign universities, so they have started establishing local branches in the country. So they have a lot of branches. So if you look at some foreign universities, you can see a lot of foreign university branches in Sri Lanka. So the government has taken some strategies to encourage private education in Sri Lanka. Those who can afford and don't want to go abroad, so they can stay in Sri Lanka and get the opportunity to pursue their higher studies. So that is one thing. And another thing is expanding our existing state education system, because now the students, there may be still rural students who can't afford to read a degree in a private education institute. So for them, we have to expand the opportunities available in the state education. If you look at how the government expenditure on education, it's gradually decreasing in all the years. That is not good sign for a proper country, like for a But
Shehani, that's also because we can't afford it. The government or like the country as a whole can't afford it. That's why it's decreasing if you think about it, the investments when it comes to government education. But in the lines of that, if you think about it, Sri Lanka, even though it's a very small island, we've gone through quite a lot. We've gone through, the Easter attacks, right? We went through COVID-19, we went through the economic crisis, and presently we're in a good state, if you think about it. But even though we are paying IMF taxes, it's quite high, causing all of us, especially the youth members as well, quite a challenge to sort of afford these taxes, afford the basics. If you take even a bottle of water, it costs more than how it was 3-4 years back. So that is the big challenge that all of the youth members are facing, right? And that's exactly why they decide to go to another country, migrate to another country, and then have those means of, okay, there's greener grass. I'm constantly saying greener grass because once you go there's no green grass. Let's be honest, Shehani. It's not really the truth, right? So they have to take odd jobs there. They have to, even if they've lived comfortably here, they could have been CEOs, they could have, been so many good things. They could have had big scholarships in Sri Lanka, but they move to the other side of the country and then they do odd jobs, working like sweeping, cleaning. That's the truth. That is legitimately the truth, right? And they think, no, you go there, you can do this, you can do that. I'm educated, I can get a car, I can get a house. This is the living thing that I want to do. But it's not the case when you leave the country, isn't that? So what is your take on this? Put out the facts as to everyone that's watching it right now as well, that thinks there is greener grass on the other end, so I'm going to leave my country and go to another country and pursue my dreams. What is your statement there?
It's like this. Now, it's a hard decision for them actually to move out and to get odd jobs, and they also need to have courage to do so, and the Sri Lankan situation has led them or forced them to do so, like it induced them to do so. That may not be most of their ultimate choice, but they might have seen they don't have any other option, because as youth they have some expectations in their young age. They wanted to make a family, they wanted to have a better life, especially youths. So that is their best time. So during this economic inflation period, actually they are the people who are getting mostly panicked and pressurized from this situation. So for them, actually, I don't say that personally, I don't say that they should be like I don't say that they're wrong, but once they go, that is the thing. So we need to have a macro level strategy to somehow control this knowledgeable migration, because they don't have enough salaries in Sri Lanka. Prices of foods and commodities is skyrocketing, and to have basic life standards they have to spend more. So these are some common problems, issues they face. So politically and economically we need to find solutions for these situations as in macro level, and also we need to craft strategies or policies to get them back. So we need to have like some partnerships, academic partnerships or work partnerships, like considerable period of time they have to come to Sri Lanka and provide services. So if they are willing to, so we need to have proper strategies for that in macro level. So those who are in abroad, so they actually, some of the students who have already migrated now, they actually struggling paying off their course fees. So they are struggling with that. So they have received, because affordability is one of the crucial factor for Sri Lankan students. So some class, now if you look at the history, only selected class of students belong to some privileged families. So they actually flew abroad to read for postgraduate degrees. But now the trend is different. Now even rural students who have come to Colombo to read their degrees, they have gained the exposure. They have actually understood the path, and now they also finding ways to migrate. And
really?
Yes, and they also getting some financial aid. Somehow they showing their money, the
capital, the show money.
Show money, and then they started to migrate. So they now face some inconsistency. So what we see on social media, the beautiful pictures may not be the reality. So they are if I frankly talk with them, so they are really like to come back. There are I know some families, so they have returned to Sri Lanka, right? So they have quite a very good jobs in Sri Lanka and doing, as you said, odd jobs in abroad. So their true intention may not to leave the country, but they genuinely wanted to serve the country, but they had no option in Sri Lanka. So that situation we have to change. So if you look at these people, so they might, some may be successful, but there may be people who are struggling at the moment with
I think the majority of the cases, people are suffering in other countries. And that's one of the reasons why we have, Australia, Canada now very soon as well, and UK. US is not even a question because the standard of going there, it's so difficult, even through a student visa, to obtain a student visa, it's so difficult, You have to show so much, show money, so much. There's like a credential that you have to get as well, SATs, there's a score that you have to get for SATs. It's very difficult to get your visas there, right? So I think they've sort of restricted that year by year, now months by months, they're restricting their student migration visa processes as well, so which is quite challenging. But one thing you mentioned, I think, was in terms of a solution as having academic bodies in Sri Lanka, especially private base, to have them sort of obtain their students once they leave the country to come back to Sri Lanka and maybe even serve in some way or not. But if you think about it, we have thousands of agencies in Sri Lanka right now that are sending our talent out of the country. They've made it a business, they're promoting, and they're being like, you know what, you can do a 1+1 program, leave the country. Then you can go on to a postgraduate study there as well. You can go get yourself a visa. We can waive off IELTS, we can waive off SATs. It's a business now. They're actually sending and promoting students of Sri Lanka to spend a hefty amount of money and leave the country because there's actually greener grass on the other side. So is that really, do you think that is something that the government needs to sort of entangle and make sure, yes, they're private bodies, but they're losing them. They're the key aspect of us losing our talent in Sri Lanka, if you think about it.
Yes. So on the other side, we also have to look about the standards and the quality of education they provide for our students. If it is for academic purpose, for higher studies, then with those waive off and with all these flexible arrangements, do our students really get a quality education there? Now, so what I said is perfectly to say that this is what we call transnational education. So many countries promoting transnational education now.
Can you explain what transnational education is?
Yes, for an example, now Monash University in Australia, so they have their branch in Malaysia, which is known as Monash Malaysia. I'm sorry to mention some names, but to be frank, so they are foreign universities, so they expand their network. So they have established branches in Asian countries and in the Europe. So that is a luxurious way for them. There are many students in those countries willing to take their degrees. So I have taken a degree. My degree is from Monash, Australia. So students like to get that international recognition. So for that, I think what I meant is we don't have enough opportunities in Sri Lanka for our students, our youths to read for their degrees and postgraduate programs. So for that, so rather we are setting them to go back to going away from the country. If we can encourage these foreign universities to enable their branches in Sri Lanka, that may be an affordable way.
But Shehani, you didn't really answer my question if you think about it. That's what you meant. But my question was, in Sri Lanka, are private bodies that are actually sending? Yes, you have a point of, international universities coming into Sri Lanka and sort of, franchising in Sri Lanka as well. So there is more affordability as well, and there's more of containing talent in Sri Lanka. But we don't have that case. We have private bodies really sending and promoting and sending our students out of the country. So that will answer on the other side as well, because I want that answer to actually come through as well. Right here on Gen X, YZ is exactly where you are. We'll jump into a short commercial break. Don't forget, in case you are wondering where this beautiful aesthetic place is, well, it's Alfresco Garden Cafe, located at Colombo 5. And we'll be back after a short commercial break with Shehani Wijerathne. Welcome back to Gen XYZ right here on Derana 24. Well, we're in conversation about a serious situation in Sri Lanka, and we are talking to the one, the only Shehani Wijerathne, who is an LLB holder. She's an Attorney-At-Law. She's an MBA holder as well, and she is definitely a senior lecturer at the Sri Wijerathne University in Sri Lanka. Well, I know you're soon going to read your PhDs as well, so you're pretty much amazing when it comes to accolades and whatnot. But on the previous segment, you answered on something that you meant, but you didn't answer my question there. So I'm going to tell you exactly again, I'm just going to repeat it again, on the context of what the question is. So universities or privatized universities in Sri Lanka, there's so many agencies. We're talking about thousands and thousands of agencies. They are promoting to send our students and our young talent out of the country, giving them waves, giving them IELTS waves, SAT waves, and so many things, and saying, oh, it's a 1+1 program, you can be successful. But when they go there, they don't have any of it. And it's terrible when you think about it, because it's so privatized, and that's the space the government has given as well, right? They've not taken control of it. They've not taken control of those bodies, because they're businesses, they're private businesses. So what is your answer on that? Give me your actual answer on it and not what you meant.
Yes, actually, this is a very good question where I can answer as a lawyer, right? So in Sri Lanka, it's true that there are plenty of institutes promoting these migration. Like, I don't say migration is a taboo topic, so migration is needed, but it has to be properly regulated, I think. There are malpractices, there are issues behind all these student migration processes. How they send students and the visa process, and recently the Supreme Court has given a judgment. The government has actually given these visa processes to one private organization, and regarding
really? Okay. Can I know what the organization is? Like, what they've basically given the entire, or is it like a business space of things?
It's actually regarding this. The government has taken a decision to giving these visa approval processes to a private organization.
Right.
So I don't think I have to mention the name. Yeah. So then now the Supreme Court has issued an injunction order for them to stop their activities until the judgment is given. So this is a good approach, a good start for Sri Lankan, for the government, as well as for the these private institutes involved in student migration. So migration is good for a good cause. I would say migration is a good master, but a good servant, but bad master. So when we talk about these institutes that involve in student migration processes, so they actually, I have seen some students have paid a lot, but in return they have received dissatisfaction. Many students who have left the country, so they have been helpless in foreign countries, as you correctly pointed out. So such malpractices hidden behind migration need to be regulated. That is not to actually discourage migration. Migration is needed for a country. We can't restrict it, but proper screening process should be there, because there are people who are willing to take undue advantage of these opportunities, making it a trend, right? So they are marketing, they are advertising, and even, as I told you before, sometimes that may not we have opportunities for higher education, some opportunities in Sri Lanka, but that opportunities are not being exposed from these marketing and media. So they are exposing, people need to migrate. So that aspect they are focusing a lot, and they have made this a luxurious market. So it's okay, but we need to have proper standards. So their conduct need to be properly by way of a voluntary conduct, or having a proper body to regulate this migration aspect. Now, even if I look at, before this discussion, even I started to look at some statistics. We don't have particular database about student migration in Sri Lanka. So we have to refer Foreign Affairs Department and some central bank reports and some data reports or statistics prepared by some research institutes. So we don't have a controlling body in Sri Lanka when it comes to labor migration. We do have, but when it comes to student migration, we don't have anybody to govern this issue, because we are actually, it is kind of a like unspoken area in Sri Lanka. The problems and issues are still raising, but the government attention, stakeholders attention has not been given that much, right? So some are doing like we call smuggling people, right? So that issue also there, like not for study purposes, for work purposes. So that issue is rapidly happening in Sri Lanka. We have smuggling laws in the country, but mostly when it comes to student migration, we need to have proper screening process. So I would like to make this program an opportunity to convey the respective stakeholders who are responsible in terms of policy making and implementing laws, enacting laws, to have a proper strategy to craft a kind of a regulation, kind of a mechanism to control the malpractices behind this student migration process.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant, Shehani. Thank you so much for actually doing that, making that very, very important and very salient statement as well to everyone that's watching in right now. Something that you mentioned, I want to deviate a little bit as well. Before you mentioned in terms of making, private organizations and, agencies, making this such a luxurious state of things. It's not a luxury. It's more like an escape is what they're doing, if I would put it that way, yeah. But besides that, you also mentioned something in terms of smuggling people out of the country. That's also another thing. So I want to deviate a little bit as to what the exact subject to it is of today, and touch base on that as well as to where there are other agencies where they sort of send a lot of people out of the country illegally. They smuggle them. We're talking about youth members, by the way. We're talking about people from rural areas, we're talking about people from Anuradhapura and whatnot. They've come to state universities, they've gone through all of that, but because of social pressure, because of economical standards of what the country is right now, they can't. It's challenging. So the only escape for them is going to these agencies and promising, okay, you go work maybe for an year in certain countries, in Middle Eastern countries specifically, and you work there, you clean their houses and whatnot. I know you're well-to-do, but go ahead, do it, and it'll pay you off. It'll pay your family off. It'll help you economically. But when they go there, they come back with so much gruesome. They have needles put in their head, in their scalp. They've got needles in their arms. They've been starved. It's gruesome. And when they come back to Sri Lanka, the government can't do anything about it. These agencies can't do anything about it because of legal aspects of things. They don't want to get into bad books with these countries. What is your take on that?
So I'm so happy that now we have come to peak of our discussion, and you have brought up so many interesting as well as important, very important facts to the discussion. So I must thank you for that. Firstly, if I look at illegal migration, so that is what I have mentioned you to. We can't actually completely restrict or ban migration, because if we ban migration, then what will be the counter side? That will be illicit or illegal migration would be increasing. So that is not good for the country. Like have you all listened to that there are some migrants from Sri Lanka, boat migrants to Australia.
Yes.
So there were student incidents like that. So so now we are deviating a little bit from student migrations, and we are talking about some other aspects. So that is what we need to prevent and control malpractices behind migration. Plus, we can't actually restrict migration. And migration, when we restrict, is illegal or unlawful movement of people will be increased, and also people have right to migrate. So it's their right when they feel that I want to go to a country. So that's their right. So we can't actually prohibit it, or we can't actually limit it. When it comes to smuggling people, So we have seen there are plenty of people that there is a pressure in society, there is a trend or a wave. Now if you look at the history, this migration happens in waves. Like firstly, if you look at the history, during our 30 years war period, people migrated for ethnic and security reasons. And then after this economic and also we had domestic workers, that among these domestic workers who migrate to Middle East, many of them are females. So that is one type of migration. And also now rapidly after 2022, the wave is student migration. So we are referring to earlier ones, the labor migration. So when it comes to employment opportunities, so many people, even not only white collar jobs, even to do blue collar jobs, many people in Sri Lanka, in order to have
support, basically.
Yes, financial support, and also have better well-being, to have a better well-being. So they have actually make a decision to go abroad. So that is a perception actually planted in their minds, and that may be a solution as well. So then they don't have enough funds, and these agencies are promoting illegal migration processes. So that is actually, we have laws in the country to combat and prevent migration, and people also need to come with their experience. They have to be like confident to come and try to trap them these
illegal migration that's taking place.
Illegal migrants to the law. So that is one aspect. And as you then we speak about these people who are willing to go abroad for job opportunities. Actually, we need to have proper mechanism to educate them, like what is the process of migration and what sort of requirements need to be there, and they also want to know according to the kind of agreement they have to come with the written agreement they have to come with these agencies, on what standards that you all are sending us, and if we want to come back, what will be the policies. So this education matters. So Sri Lanka, lack of information and also lack of education. So for these people, we have to have proper campaigns and programs to educate them, right? So that will be another area that we have to particularly look at.
Okay. That was a very extensive response as well to that particular question, which I'm very grateful that you actually brought the stats for that as well, but you sort of glanced over it. So let's not go deeper into it, because it's a very sensitive topic when you think about it as well, right? Because it's on social standings and whatnot. I don't want to be biased, because being a journalist is not supposed to be biased. So I'm going to give you another question, which is a little bit of, it'll be contradictory from all the other questions I asked you. With regards to having a dream, you may be having a dream as well. Do you have a dream, Shehani?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I feel like everyone watching in right now as well has a dream. And that dream is basically, it could be a better life, it could be better financial standing, to have a car, have a good house. But those are very challenging in Sri Lanka. And during your time period, I'm not guessing your age or anything, but during your time period, you had the most challenging period, which is the civil war. And during the civil war, a lot of people had to actually, really go through what suffering is. And they did. And then they challenged all of that. You have your law degrees, you're a senior lecturer today, besides all of the challenges you went through during your generation. But today's generation, the youth watching in today as well, they don't want to go through it. Why do we have to go through the suffering when we can go to another country, when we can migrate to another country and make ourselves or make our dreams come true? What is your take on this, Shehani?
Yes, you have put me in a difficult situation. So, yes. So, actually, they are right. The environment, facilities and information we had different from those who are in the youth age right now. So they don't want to take that troublesome, cumbersome steps. So they actually wanted to, if they are making such decision, so as a country we have to have a proper
guiding
solutions,
yes.
Solutions for the problem. Why we have to find solutions to the question why we actually lose our youth. So their decision to go away from the country, and as a country what we have to look at is why they leave. The question why is important. Then as a whole, as a country, we need to have a proper strategy by expanding state education, by promoting some higher education institutes, and also we also have to look at the age of graduates. So the main reason to fly abroad for this higher education is their age. In Sri Lankan education system, to become a graduate, to get a postgraduate degree, so people have to wait for 25 to 26. So that also very important. There are some crucial factors we have to look as a country to provide the answer to why students are migrating, why youths are migrating the country. So well, we need macro level solutions.
Thank you very much, Shehani. Honestly, it's been quite a great time for me as well to have this conversation with you. A very needed conversation, and I really hope you have a beautiful, beautiful evening ahead as well. So thank you so much for doing this. And with that, this is Gen XYZ right here on Other Derana 24. We've come to the conclusion of this particular interview. In case you're wondering where this beautiful location is, again, this is El Frasco Garden Cafe, located at Colombo 5. So it's got a beautiful aesthetic, by the way. It's very beachy. It's in the heart of Colombo, and you can definitely get a little bit of a glimpse of what down south is right here in this beautiful cafe. And with that, we'll be back with Gen XYZ. Don't forget, if you do miss out on an episode, we are available on youtube.com/Other Derana English. And with that, see you on a different episode.
Quizá fui yo el que se fue de fiesta tarde y no llegó, pero no estuve con nadie, juro por Dios que me tentaron muchas veces, pero no, ay, pero no. Baby, confía, fía, 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 solo salí por una fría, 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 fría. Tus amigas te mentían, yo sé que tú te habías pensado que yo era un descarado. Me dieron un gol y me rompieron la camisa, qué dolor. Nos abrazamos y por